The first thing I noticed in this music video by Priddy Ugly for his single Kind Regards, which was a bonus track on his deluxe for his album Dust, was the visual play around contrast. This begins from the opening shot where a woman is holding a man. The first contrast here is the fact that she is a woman and he is a man, as well as the man who has been shot and the woman who is mourning him, who's healthy and fine, their clothing. The man is wearing a white shirt, black pants, and white slides with white socks. The woman, on the other hand, is wearing black sneakers, white pants, white jeans, and a black jacket. Even her earrings are white. In fact, the play around the contrast with the styling continues from the opening scene throughout the entire music video, as it introduces a second shot of a sun ray that exposes Priddy Ugly as a silhouette, therefore showing the contrast between the sun and Priddy Ugly in this instant. It then jumps to a shot of Herc Cut The Lights, who is wearing all black and a white cap. And just when the man who had just been shot down loses his life, the man that is running past with his gang dressed in all black is exposed to be the same person, therefore introducing the contrast between life and death. The game of tug-of-war in this music video fits perfectly well with the lyrical contents of this song, where Priddy Ugly raps, "If you're not fighting to survive, you better step aside. We gon' see who stays alive when we're on separate sides." The scene of the tug-of-war then reveals the themes of the album titled Dust, as well as the themes on the song and the music video as a whole, such as the dust on the floor with the torn up sneakers, while the man who is wearing these sneakers is pulling on the rope, and shows the themes of struggle and resilience. And in between these shots, we see Priddy Ugly in this warmly lit room, dressed in all black with a black pen as he's rapping, but also writing this letter down on paper. Just when you think you understand the play around contrast and duality in this music video, it introduces you to a play around ego. A letter to, from first listen, you would assume to be his opposition, but from watching this music video, I would assume this letter would be a letter to himself or his ego and his pride, which can be supported by his raps in the song as well, where he raps, "I've been to funerals where nobody died, we just bury pride." The protagonist and antagonist is introduced into the storyline of this music video, which in this instance, I wouldn't say neither of them is a bad or a good guy, but we are introduced to Priddy Ugly and the character that was introduced to us as the dying character in the beginning of this music video. We are then shown where the beef or the disagreement begins with them, which pairs or sequences perfectly well with the song, where he raps about knowing men who have used or let jealousy be the root to their disagreements. And we see this visually play out as well in the framework of this music video, which I think was perfect. The sequencing was beautiful. The music video then elevates to a different side of Priddy Ugly, where in the beginning of this music video, most of the characters were in all black, including Priddy Ugly. In the subsequent frames, Priddy Ugly is then pictured in predominantly white clothing, where a ballerina is dancing behind him. The ballerina in this instance could represent grace or innocence or spiritual devotion or discipline, which is something that ballerinas are often known to symbolize, as well as the all white in these frames between Priddy Ugly and the ballerina behind him that could represent a sort of innocence, which contrasts the power play that was being played in the beginning from the tug of war and the altercation between the antagonists. Another piece of detail in this music video is the old-fashioned way in which Priddy Ugly is choosing to address these issues. Um, it feels like very much standing on business from the letter we're hearing him write and seeing him with the pen and the paper almost writing this letter or the lyrical content of this song down in this letter to the handgun revolver that was shown for just a split second in this music video, as well as the retro dynamic mic that was connected to an audio tape machine. Very old school, but it shows a frame of Pretty Ugly then addressing these issues or rapping into this microphone to another individual. It's like he's addressing everything with his chest and taking it to the mic from um the public to like recording it in studio to addressing the person face to face. Just so much of that felt old school and felt very hip hop. The way he's choosing to address it also in terms of into the mic, especially visually speaking, was kind of interesting in that regard because he's addressing these problems, head on. And you think that the person that he's speaking to is the individual who he's shown to be against in this music video, and then it's revealed that all along who he's been addressing is himself. Another notable piece of detail in this music video is the scene while Pretty Ugly is addressing himself or addressing his counterpart on the mic and face to face. We get a cut into a scene where there's hands and handcuffs behind bars that almost represents, being tied down and defeat. But behind these hands in the darkness is a window with so much natural light shining through, which almost represents the contrasting emotion that is hope. But it gets cooler. It gets cooler. Just the frames after this then introduce the producer behind the single, which is Herc Cut The Lights. And ironically, these subsequent frames introduce the producer with a light in his hand, igniting the piano in which he is playing. The irony of Herc Cut The Lights, who's supposed to be cutting the lights, bringing a lighter into the frame and enlightening the dark piano. He then begins to play the keys on this piano that he just set on fire, almost as a reference to the fact that the beats that he makes are fire. Not to mention that the white cap written City of God that Herc Cut The Lights is seen wearing in this video that shows an almost full circle or the result of spiritual devotion and sort of plays around the idea of spiritual devotion that was introduced in the beginning of this music video through the ballerina and what she represents and what she symbolizes, which in this instance sort of plays around the idea of righteousness. And at the end of this music video, when the antagonist or the opposition picks up this letter, the play around contrast in lighting in this music video did so well in showing the different times in which Pretty Ugly as a character and the antagonist in this music video felt powerful and when they felt innocent. Whereas Skit begins to play, quoting one of the most notable black mafias known in history, known as Frank Lucas, specifically Frank Lucas from the movie American Gangsta, which plays throughout the ending or the outro of this music video. I absolutely believe that this outro of the skit of Frank Lucas was a perfect addition to the song and the music video, as the character played by Denzel Washington, the introduction of this black mafia known as Frank Lucas, the way he handled himself as a mafia and stood on business, and the cadence that he brought into the streets was so different and so unique and set him apart and gave him a different dynamic of power in the streets and a different level of respect. I think just that part of detail and the connection between the character of Pretty Ugly in the song and music video and Frank Lucas and his history, or specifically in the movie American Gangsta in this instance, paired perfectly well together.
And I'll never let it slide, never let it slide. 25.